Hello, I'm Paul Carroll, technical writer for Digital Photo Magazine, and welcome to this Understanding RAW video tutorial. This month's RAW Pull-Out Guide is all about learning the best methods of managing your RAW images and developing a workflow that takes your images from memory card to backup in a really efficient manner. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at the options and functionality offered by Adobe Bridge and Photoshop CS4 for managing a RAW workflow. There's lots to cover, so to make it as easy as possible, we've broken it down into 6 individual stages. The first thing you need to do is sort out a really good file structure for storing your RAW images. If you double click the My Computer icon, you can see all the drives connected to your computer. And there we go, there's my external hard drive, the free agent drive H. If I just right click on there and go down to Explore, that'll allow me to have a look at the folders on the hard drive. And on there you can see that I've got a folder called Image Library, and all my photos are stored within my image library. If I quickly explore the drive, you can see that I've got a folder for each year. And if we take a look inside this year's folder, 2009, you can see I've got a set of subfolders, one for each month of the year. And then within every month folder, I've got an event folder for all of the events that I photographed that month. This is a great filing system because it means I can always find my RAW images quickly. Well, as long as I can remember where and when I took them, of course. Okay, I'm back from a shoot and I need to download my RAW images. First thing to do is plug my memory card in via a card reader. When you connect your card reader to a PC, you'll get this Windows dialog box pop up. And from here, you can tell Windows to import your images either into Elements, Lightroom or Bridge. And it's a great way of copying your RAW files onto your hard drive, importing them into an organizer or into Lightroom, and renaming them all in one step. It is easy to do, and it will save you a lot of time in sorting out your file structure. It'll only work though when you've got images to import from your card reader. So we're going to look at how to copy the files onto your hard drive, import them into Lightroom and rename the files all manually. Then if you've already got images on your computer, you'll know how to import and rename them too. Okay, so I need to explore my memory card to copy my images over. So if I double click the My Computer icon again, and you can see that I've got a new drive now appeared within my computer, which is called Nikon D300, that's the G drive. So if I just double click on there, and I can find my images, they're in the D300 folder. Okay, so these are all the images from my latest shoot. So if I just select the first one, hold down the Control key and press the letter A, that selects all the files, including this hidden one, as long as I click OK. I can then hold down Control and press the letter C to copy the files, and I'll just minimize that. And then I want to go back to my external hard drive. So you can see in this window here, I'm still exploring my hard drive, but I need to create another months folder, a July folder, to save the images from my latest shoot in. That's really easy to do. All I need to do in this Windows Explorer panel is right click, select New Folder. I'm going to call this one 07 July. Hit the return key. Then I can double click on that folder to explore it. And I want to create another event folder in here. So I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call this one Viewed. Double click on the Viewed folder to explore that one, and then I can simply hold down the Control key and press the letter V on the keyboard, and that's now pasting my RAW images from my memory card over to my external hard drive. It's going to take a few seconds, so I'll join you when it's done. Okay, so that's our first stage complete. We've sorted out our file structure. We've got an image library folder sitting on an external hard drive with a subset of folders for each year, 12 subfolders in each year folder, one for each month, and then within that an event folder for every event that we photographed that month. We've then copied our raw images from our memory card using a card reader into the relevant event folder within the right month. The next stage in our raw workflow is to browse and edit our images. Now when you're using the bridge, you don't have to import images. You can simply use the Folders panel to navigate to the folder of images that we've just saved on our external hard drive. Now if you can't see the Folders panel, or any of the panels that I've got open in the bridge, you can activate them by going up to the Window menu and just making sure there's a tick next to the panel that we're using. So with the Folders panel open, we can navigate to that folder of images that we've just saved. So there we go. Under our external hard drive, image library folder and subsequent set of subfolders, we can find 2009, July and Bude. Now when you're editing your raw images, there's a really good system using the star ratings within the bridge that you can use to identify the worst shots, the ones that you want to delete, as well as the very best shots from the shoot. So we're going to rate the ones that we want to delete 1 star and the best 5 star, and we can do that simply by holding down the control key and either pressing the number 1 or the number 5. Now when you're picking images to delete, you want to delete any duplicates or shots that are out of focus or where the exposure is so bad that it can't be rescued in camera raw. So for example, we've got 2 very similar images here. There's no point me keeping both because they're just clogging up space on my hard drive. So I think I'm going to keep this one, the second shot, because the exposure's a little bit better. But a really good tip that you should use when you're working out which shot you want to delete and which shot you should keep is to check the sharpness. And a good way of checking the sharpness in bridge is to use the loop. It's really easy to do. All you need to do is hover your mouse over the image and you can see that we get the zoom tool up. And then just click with your mouse button and that brings up the loop and allows you to check sharpness at 100%. So yeah, this is looking pretty sharp in the foreground, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm definitely going to keep the second image and delete the first one. So I'll just mark that up by holding down Control and pressing number 1, and you can see that I've given it a 1 star. Okay, I'll go through the rest of my images, identifying the shots I want to delete, and I'll join you again in a minute. Okay, so with all the images I want to delete rated 1 star, all I need to do now is filter by the star ratings and bring up all the images I want to delete. So just simply click on the downward arrow next to the star up here in the toolbar and click Show 1 star or more. There you go, that's brought up all my 1 star images. Now I can just highlight them all and hit the delete key. The error message is asking me whether I just want to reject the files from the bridge or whether I actually want to delete them from my hard drive. And I want to delete them because I don't want them clogging up space on my hard drive. So I'm just going to click delete. That's going to be, am I sure I want to send them to the recycle bin? I'll just click OK. So now just to see the rest of the images, I just need to go back up to the star in the toolbar and click clear filter. The next stage of star rating is to identify the very best shots from my shoot. They're the images that I want to spend a bit longer on when I'm converting my raw files, because they're the ones I'm going to print, upload to the internet, or maybe enter into a photo competition. So again, I'm just going to click on a thumbnail in the content panel to bring up the image in the preview, and I can just identify my best images by rating them 5 star. Again, holding down the control key and pressing 5 on the keyboard. So I quite like that one, and I quite like the shot of the boat here. So again, hold down the control key, press the letter 5. So that's stage 2 of our raw workflow. Navigate to our folder of raw images on our external hard drive, then use the star rating system to identify the images that you want to delete, and delete them from your external hard drive, and then go through your catalogue again and star rate your very best images 5 stars. If you need to search your hard drive to find a particular set of photos, the cryptic names assigned by your camera are going to make them virtually impossible to find. So step 3 in our raw workflow is to rename our shots so they're easier to search for, and also to keyword them so that we can find them easier within the bridge. Renaming in the bridge is really easy. Just hit Ctrl and A in the content panel to select them all, and then go up to Tools and Batch Rename, which is the first option on the menu. In the dialog box that pops up, we just need to tell the bridge how to batch rename our files. So under the destination options, we want to leave rename in the same folder ticked, and then under new file names we need to specify how bridge should rename the files. So we're going to give it one option, which is text, and I'm going to call these ones viewed, and we're also going to tell it to give it a sequential number starting with the number 1 and being 3 digits long. And you can see from the preview menu at the bottom here that our new file name is going to be viewed001.nef, and the 18 files are going to be renamed. So all those options look okay. I'm just going to click rename. There we go, back in Bridge you can see all our files have been renamed. Another method of making browsing and finding raw files much more intuitive within the Bridge is to assign keywords. Now you can assign keywords in any way that you like, but a system that makes sense to me is to keyword images based on image content. So for example, you can assign a keyword of landscape, portrait or macro, and then you can filter your image library by those keywords to find all the landscape images in your library. Assigning keywords is really easy. You just need to have the keywords panel open, so again you can activate that from the window menu. Here's mine on the left hand side of the screen here, and all the images I took in View are all landscape content. So I'm just going to highlight all of the images again in the content panel, and I'm going to tick the landscape keyword. So now all the images from this shoot have been assigned the keyword landscape, and later on down the line, if I need to find all my landscape images, I can just filter by the keyword landscape, and that's a really quick way of finding my landscape images. And if you're using Bridge CS4, there's even more functionality which makes browsing and finding your raw images much more intuitive, and that's called Smart Collections. We can use Smart Collections to create a collection based on any criteria that we specify. Now we need to have the Collections panel open, so I'm going to go up to the window menu and down to Collections, and in the bottom right hand corner here, if I click on the New Smart Collection icon, we can identify and specify the criteria for our smart collection. Now it's asking us for a source, and I'm just going to tell it that I want it to search the whole image library, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a collection which brings back my best landscape images, i.e. images that I've keyword tagged landscape as well as rating 5 stars. So I need to specify the criteria. The first one is that we've got a keyword which contains landscape, and then I'm going to add a second criteria by clicking on the plus symbol, and that's going to be a star rating. So I'm going to find rating is equal to 5 stars. I want the results if all criteria are met, i.e. both of those two above. So I click Save, give my new smart collection a name, so I'm going to call that one Landscape 5 stars. Click OK. And now when I highlight my Landscape 5 stars collection, you can see that I'm just bringing through the very best landscape images in my collection. So that's the third stage in our raw workflow. We've renamed our raw images so they're much easier to search for on our hard disk. We've also added a keyword tag so that we can search for images by image content within the Bridge. And we've also created a smart collection which grouped together all of our 5-star landscape shots. Converting raw files can be quite time consuming, and if we had to convert every file manually, it could take hours. Fortunately, raw converters are pretty smart nowadays, allowing you to apply the same adjustments to lots of images that require the same treatment all in one go. Take these 3 sunset images from my shoot for example. We've got a great sky but an underexposed foreground. So I want to lighten the foreground in all three of these shots. And there's no need to do each file individually, while I can open all three into Camera Raw and convert them at the same time. All you need to do is select all the images that you want to convert in the same way, and then click on the Camera Raw icon in the toolbar, and that's going to launch Adobe Camera Raw in Photoshop CS4. Okay, there we go. You can see all three files have been opened into Camera Raw because we've got the thumbnails in the film strip on the left hand side. So all I need to do is make my adjustments to one of the files. So I'm just going to increase the exposure by around a stop, just to lighten that foreground a little bit. And I'm going to bring in some fill light. So I'm going to move my fill light up to around plus 30. And you can now see that's just starting to bring a little bit of detail back into the silhouetted area in the foreground. We've lost a little bit of punch in the sky though, so just to bring that sky back to its former glory, I'm just going to increase the saturation slightly. So go about plus 10 on the saturation and about plus 10 on the vibrance. And that's now looking a lot better. But I want to apply those same settings to the other two images that I've opened in Camera Raw. And that's easy to do with just a couple of clicks of a button. All I need to do is select all in the film strip, and then I can just synchronize the settings by pressing the synchronize button. I get a synchronize dialog box which asks me which settings I want to synchronize. Now I've only adjusted the exposure, the fill light, saturation and vibrance, but there's no harm in synchronizing all of the settings, so I'm just going to leave them all ticked there and click OK. And you can see the image thumbnails there for my second and third image. They've now all been lightened in the same way. So if you want to open those images into Photoshop for further editing, then we just hit the Open Image button. Or if you're happy and you just want to close down Camera Raw with those adjustments made, click Done. So the fourth stage in our RAW workflow is to make basic RAW conversions quickly and easily by synchronizing settings and converting multiple files all in the same time in Adobe Camera Raw. It's only necessary to give the full RAW conversion treatment to the very best 5-star images in your library. We've already identified the best images from this shoot by rating them 5 stars. So we can use the filter panel and identify our 5-star images just by ticking the 5-star rating. And you can see now that we've only got 2 images from our shoot that we really want to spend a lot of time converting. When you're making an advanced RAW conversion, it makes sense to apply your adjustments in a logical order. That way you don't end up making adjustments twice or adjusting pixels that aren't going to be in the final version of your image. I'm going to use this nice shot of the boat to show you what order to make your RAW conversion adjustments in. All I need to do is click the Camera Raw icon again just to open this image into Adobe Camera Raw. And the first adjustment we need to make is to crop the image. It might sound like an odd place to start, but is there any point adjusting pixels which are not going to be in the final version? Not really. So let's get them out of the picture now and we can concentrate on the pixels that are going to be in our final print. So select the crop tool from the toolbar. I just want to make sure that the aspect ratio is fixed 2:3. And then I'm going to draw my crop box over the image. So I'm just going to crop out this dead space on the left hand side and recompose the picture so that the foreground interest, the boat there, is sitting roughly on the third and is creating a nice lead-in line to the other boats and the houses. Just hit return to accept my crop. The next adjustment that you want to make is adjust your white balance. Now the white balance is looking pretty good, but I think I shot it in auto, so just to be on the safe side, I'm just going to change the white balance to daylight using the presets here. And once the white balance is adjusted, you can turn your attention to the main meat of a RAW conversion, and that's fine-tuning the exposure for the best results. Now if I activate my shadows clipping warning and my highlights clipping warning, you can see that I've got a fair amount of burnout. So to sort this out, I'm going to use the exposure slider, and I'm just going to reduce the exposure by around a stop. and that's reduced most of the burnout here in the houses at the top of the frame. We've still got a fair bit of burnout in the boathouse here on the left, so I'm just going to use the recovery slider, and I might need to take the recovery quite high. Yeah, I'm going to take it all the way to 100, and that's really brought back some detail into the whites of the buildings. The exposure's looking a lot better, but that reduction in the exposure has made the colours look a little bit muddy, a little bit murky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the vibrant and saturation sliders, and I'm just going to pump up the saturation in the image for a more pleasing result. So I'm going to take the saturation there to around plus 20, and with the vibrance I'm going to go to around, I don't know, plus 15. That's going to give us a nice blue to the sky. So there we go. That's looking a lot better now. We've reduced the burnout. We've still got a little bit of loss of detail in the shadows there. That's being highlighted by the shadows clipping warning. But I'm not too concerned about that because it's not really big blocky areas. It's just a little bit. And now we've got some bright highlights and we've got a few dark shadows. So that means our image is going to have a fair bit of contrast and looks pretty good. Once you've corrected the exposure and adjusted the colour, you can then move over to the detail panel and adjust things like sharpening and reduce the noise. Now the default sharpening values of amount 25, radius 1, detail 25 and masking 0, they're going to be fine for most images, and I'm quite happy with them for this image. But if you've got a raw image that requires some extra sharpening, or a little bit less perhaps, then this is where you should adjust the sharpening sliders at this stage of your raw conversion. Similarly with noise reduction, if you've shot your image at quite a high ISO, then you may need to adjust the noise reduction. I've shot this at ISO 200, so there's virtually no noise in it at all. So I'm just going to leave both the sharpening and the noise reduction sliders as is. The final stage of an advanced raw conversion would be to address any inherent optical faults caused by lens defects, and in the full version of Photoshop you do that using the tab called Lens Corrections, which is the 6th tab along. So if you just click there, and we've got options to control the fringing and reduce any fringing that might have been caused by your lens using the chromatic aberration sliders, and you can reduce any vignetting or even add a vignette for a creative effect should you wish using the lens vignetting sliders. And those adjustments should really come at the end of your advanced raw conversion. Okay, so once you're done, either hit open image to open into the main image editing area, or just done to return back to the bridge. So that's step 5 in our raw workflow, advanced raw conversions. Work through your advanced raw conversions in a logical order, in order that you don't end up making adjustments twice and wasting your time. So crop and adjust the white balance, then fine tune the exposure and adjust your colours, and finally you want to address any problems such as sharpening the image, reducing the noise, or fixing any inherent optical faults caused by your lens. RAW is great for quality and control, but it's also a pain when you want to show off your work. Stick a load of RAWs on a jump drive to take to a friend's, or try to upload them to the internet, and you'll soon run into problems. This is when the universal JPEG picture format that's recognised by every picture viewer out there comes into its own. When you're done organising, editing, renaming and converting your RAW files, compressing them to create a JPEG format copy will come in handy later. When you've got all the power of Adobe Bridge, however, you don't need to do this individually. We can batch process to save to JPEG, and I'll show you how it's done. Navigate to the folder of images that you want to compress, and you can see that I've unticked my ratings filter there, so I'm now viewing all of the images in the folder. Next we want to hit Ctrl and A on the keyboard to select all the images in the folder. Now we need to go up to the Tools menu, down to Photoshop and across to Image Processor. That's going to take us into Photoshop CS4, and the Image Processor dialog box which pops up gives us the option to batch process our raw images and save them as JPEG. Under the first menu we need to select our images to process, and that's fine, we've already done that because we highlighted them in the bridge. Under the second section, we need to tell it where to save the processed images. And I want to save them to the same location, so all my images from Bude are together, regardless of whether they're RAW or JPEG. And under the third option, we need to tell it what format. So I've ticked the Save as JPEG box, and under the quality box, I've entered 12, which is the maximum quality for a JPEG file. So all those options are set up, and all I need to do now is click Run, and Photoshop will go off and save my RAW files to JPEG. Okay, it's going to take a few minutes, so I'll join you again when it's done. So with the image processor having completed its job, if I just minimise Photoshop, you can see now on my external hard drive in my Bude folder, you can see I have both a RAW and a JPEG copy of my images. So the final stage of our RAW conversion workflow is to make sure all our images are properly backed up to a second external hard drive. So connect a second external hard drive to your computer. I'm going to navigate to it again using the My Computer dialog box. So I'll just double click there, and you can see that I've got my initial hard drive connected, the free agent drive, and I've also got my Western Digital 500 gig connected. So if I just explore that hard drive, you can see that I've got a backup copy of my image library, and this is an uncompressed backup copy. It really is just a copy and paste job from my initial hard drive. So if I have a look in the 2009 year folder, you can see that I haven't yet got a July folder. So I'm just going to copy that from my free agent hard drive for a backup copy. So if I just click back a couple of times, you can see there we've got our July folder. If I just hold down the Shift key, I then just need to select my July folder, and then I can just simply drag and drop that onto my second hard drive. And that's copying and pasting a backup copy. So I can now delete the raw images off my memory cards, safe in the knowledge that I've got two versions backed up on different hard drives. Then if one of the hard drives fails in the future, I've always got another copy. I really hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial, and it helps streamline your own raw photography workflow in the future. Okay, cheers.